Hi, this is Right at Keeping It Real, and we are continuing to read through the scriptures. First Maccabees, we're on chapter 5. And just a note, today is February the 11th. It's about 7 p.m. Everybody's getting ready for the Super Bowl. And I thought, oh, what a better time to read the word than to be, sucked into. I remember being sucked into all that was going on, things like that. They just don't matter. But this matters. This matters. So here we go. We're reading from First Maccabees. We're on chapter 5. Wars with the neighboring nations. So when the neighboring nations heard that the Jews had built the altar and restored the temple as it had been before, they were furious. So they were upset that, we built the altar back for the Most High. Ugh. They were furious that they had made up their minds to destroy. Start over. When the neighboring nations heard that the Jews had built the altar and restored the temple as it had been before, they were so furious that they made up their minds to destroy all the Jews who were living amongst them. So they began to murder and kill our people. Our people. And so that's what I really want to, emphasize is that for me, when I was reading the Word of God before 2019, I was reading this like, story, other people, didn't know who the people were. But now that I know they're our ancestors, our people, that's the way I'm reading this, like our people. Okay, the what? Idunameans were blockading the Israelites. So Judas went to war against them at Acrabatim, crushed them, and looted them. Judas was a bad man. He was super bad. He also dealt with the people of Maim, who were a constant threat to the people of Israel because they would lie ambush waiting to trap Israelite travelers. He shut the Maimonites up in their forts, took a solemn oath that he would destroy them and burn their forts with everyone in them. So I can tell you, the Most High is no joke in the Old Testament and the Apocrypha. His people are no joke. I mean, then he marched against the land of Ammon, where he met a large and powerful army under the command of a man named Timothy. Okay. Judas won many battles against them and finally defeated them. He captured Jazer and its surrounding villages and then returned to Judea. The Gentiles in Gilead assembled to attack and destroy the Israelites living in their territory. There's a bunch of battle going on. But the Israelites fled to a fortress of Datima, and sent the following letter to Judas and his brothers. So the Gentiles in Gilead assembled to attack and destroy the Israelites. They're still fighting, okay, living in their territory. So Israelites were living in the Gentile territory. But the Israelites fled to a fortress. So the Israelites went to a fortress of Dathema, wherever that is, and sent the following letter to Judas and his brothers. The Gentiles around us are joining forces under Timothy. We have fled to this fortress for protection, and now they are getting ready to capture it and destroy us. Many of us have already been killed. Come rescue us. Who is writing this letter again? The Gentiles assembled to attack and destroy the Israelites living in the territory. But the Israelites fled to a fortress and sent the following letter to okay, so the Israelites are sending the letter to Judas, trying to get help. Okay, all right. Many of us have already been killed. Come rescue us. All the Jewish men in the region of Tob had been killed. Their wives and their children had been taken captive, and their possessions had been carried off. A force of about 1,000 men had been destroyed there. Okay. Judas and his men saw a vast army attacking the fortress. Okay, so Judas and his men are looking out and seeing what's happening where they're being attacked, that fortress is being attacked. Okay. This letter was still being read when other messengers who had torn their clothes in sorrow arrived with a report from Galilee. They said an army from, you know what? Part of the problem of reading the word is that you don't know half the words. You know, you don't do it. I'm not gonna let that's not me. Whatever that word is, all those places has come together to destroy us. So all these places have come together to destroy the Israelites. So when Judas and the people heard all this, a great assembly was held to decide what should be done to help these countrymen who were in such difficulty under enemy attack. Judas said to his brother Simon, "Choose some men and go rescue our fellow Jews in Galilee. Our brother Jonathan and I will go to Gilead. I don't know what that word is, but I should. I know I should." Judas left the rest of his army to defend Judea. I mean, so there's a whole lot of fighting going on in a whole lot of places. And put the two leaders, Azariah and Joseph's sons, so whatever, in charge of the people. Okay, so Judas is leaving, helping people out. He's got to put other people in charge. He's at running things. He told them, "I'm leaving you in command here, but don't go out and fight the Gentiles until we get back." Then 3,000 men joined Simon for the march unto Galilee, and 8,000 remained with Judas for the march unto Gilead. Whatever, guys. And I feel bad about not knowing these words. I mean, I do. I do feel bad about it. Okay, verse 21. Simon went into Galilee. Who is Simon? Who is Simon? Who is Simon? Okay. I don't know, maybe I'll figure it out. Simon went into Galilee and fought many battles with the Gentiles. So it's one of the Israelites, one of the brothers. He defeated them and pursued them all the way to the city of Ptolemais, killing about 3,000 of them and taking the loot. Then he took the Jews who were in Galilee and Arabata and their wives, their children, and all they owned, and brought them back to Judea with them. There was a great rejoicing. So they fight, they win, they take the loot, they take all the people. During this time, Judas Maccabees and his brother Jonathan had crossed the Jordan River and marched for 3 days through the desert. They met some friendly Nabateans who told them all that had happened to the Jews in Gilead. They reported that many Jews were imprisoned in the fortified cities, all those cities, there they are, while others were imprisoned in the smaller town of Gilead. They also reported that the enemy was drawn up to make an attack the next day on the Jewish fortress, hoping to destroy all the Jews in a single day. So Judas and his army suddenly turned and attacked Bozrah by the desert road, captured the town, and killed every man in it. They looted the town and set it on fire. They left there and marched all night to the fortress of Dithma. At dawn, Judas and his men saw a vast army attacking the fortress. They were bringing up ladders, siege platforms, and battering rams in an effort to capture it. When Judas heard the noise, the shouts, and the sound of the trumpets coming from the city, he realized that the battle had begun, so he said to his men, "Fight today for our fellow Jews." He ordered his men to march in 3 columns and attack the enemy from the rear. As they moved forward, they blew trumpets and shouted prayers. So there's something about prayers, trumpets that, brings the Most High to help. When the army under Timothy's command saw that it was Judas Maccabeus, the soldiers turned and fled. Well, they're afraid of them. Judas crushed them and killed about 8,000 men that day. Man. Then Judas turned aside and attacked the town of Almea. He captured it and killed all the men in it. He looted the town and set fire to it. From there, he went on and captured all those towns. After this, Timothy gathered another army and camped outside Raphan on the side. Why is that blurry? On the other side of the river. Judas sent some men to spy on the camp, and they reported back to him that all the Gentiles in the region had joined Timothy and had formed a large army. Timothy had also hired Arab mercenaries to help him, and these were camped on the other side of the river, ready to attack Judas. So Judas went out to meet them in battle. So now you can kind of see why they want to get rid of and have Israel be no more, because when the Most High is with his people, they are unstoppable. As Judas and his army came closer to the water, Timothy said to his officers, if he keeps on coming and crosses the river, we won't be able to turn back his attack, and he will defeat us. But if he is afraid and stops on the other side of the river, we will cross over to attack and defeat him. When Judas reached the bank of the river, he gave orders to his officers to let no one stop, but to push everyone forward into battle. Judas was the first to cross the river against the enemy, and his men followed him. The Gentiles broke ranks before them, threw away their arms, and fled to the pagan temple of Caranam. But Judas and his men took the city and burned down the temple with all who were in it. Wow. Okay. Whew. With wherever this place is overthrown, the Gentiles could no longer offer any resistance to Judas. Then Judas gathered together all the Jews in Gilead to take them back to Judea with him. It was a large group, all kinds of people together. With their wives and their children and all that they owned. They went as far as Ephraim, a large, well-fortified town. It was impossible to go around it on either side, and the road passed directly through the town. But the people there would not let them pass and blocked the town gates with stones. Then Judas sent a friendly message to them. Let us pass through your territory to return home. No one will harm you. We will just pass through. But they still refused to open the gates. I can only imagine what's going to happen. So Judas told everyone in the group except the fighting men to camp where they were. The fighting men were ordered to take up their positions and attack the town. They fought all day and all night until they had taken it. Judas had all the men of Ephraim put to death, plundered the town, and leveled it. There you go. We just told you we wanted to pass through, but you wanted to act difficult, so there you are. Then he and his army marched through the town over the dead bodies. Check this out. This is brutal. Oh, they crossed the Jordan into the wide plain opposite Beth Shan. Throughout the whole march, Judas kept gathering up the stragglers and encouraging the people until they reached the land of Judea. With thanksgiving and rejoicing, they went up to Mount Zion and sacrificed burnt offerings because they had returned safely without the loss of a single man. When Judas and Jonathan were in Gilead, and their brother Simon was attacking Ptolemus in Galilee, Joseph and Azariah, the commanders of the army of Judea, heard about their brave deeds and victories. They said to one another, let's go to war with the Gentiles around us and win some fame for ourselves. Wait a minute. Oh, so was there some dissension here? So they and their men attacked Geminiah. Georgius and his men went out of the town to meet them in battle. They defeated Joseph and Azariah, and they pursued them as far as the borders of Judea. At least, they were trying to they went outside of what their brother told them to do. So at least 2,000 Israelite men were killed that day. This great defeat came about because the Jewish commanders wanted to be heroes and refused to obey Judas and his brothers. Besides, they did not belong to the family of the Maccabees. Okay, so these were just men that were in the group, but not the family of the Maccabees, whom God had chosen to bring freedom to the people of Israel. So God was with the Maccabee brothers. But Judas Maccabeus and his brothers won great respect among all the Israelites, and all the Gentiles. I mean, you see how they got that word from that? Israelites? They just switched up the word? Okay. And all the Gentiles, when people heard of their fame, a large crowd gathered to praise them. Then Judas and his brothers went to war against the Edomites. Then Judas and his brothers went to war against the Edomites to the south. He attacks Hebron and its surrounding towns, destroyed its fortifications, and burned down the towers around it. Then he marched into the land of the Philistines and passed through Marasa. That day, a number of priests were killed in battle because they wanted to be heroes and foolishly went out to fight. Judas turned aside to Ashdod in Philistia. He pulled down the altars, burned the images of their gods, plundered their towns, and then returned to Judea. They were bad to the bone. They didn't mess around. They had the Most High on their side. So I don't want to hear about the lovey-dovey and all that. This is not that. This is we coming through. Don't mess with us. You mess with us, you might not make it. That's what this is. So this is First Maccabees Chapter 5, signing off.